It's time we talked about Ebola. It's been in the news a lot, and for good reason. It's one of the deadliest diseases humanity faces, the second deadliest, technically, and it's making a stand in West Africa.
An outbreak of the deadly Ebola virus.
The biggest Ebola outbreak.
Ebola outbreak.
Ebola is one of the most dangerous viruses known to man.
Hundreds of people dead as the worst Ebola virus outbreak in history sweeps through West Africa. It began as a handful of cases in Guinea in March, but quickly spread to the neighboring countries of Sierra Leone and Liberia. Médecins Sans Frontières describes Ebola as one of the world's most deadly diseases.
This morning, I am declaring the current outbreak of Ebola virus disease a public health emergency of international concern.
But what is Ebola? Ebola is a highly infectious virus that can kill up to 90% of the people who catch it. The virus is named after the Ebola River in the Democratic Republic of Congo, formerly Zaire, where one of the first outbreaks occurred in 1976. The same year, there was another outbreak in Sudan. It is highly contagious, being transmitted via contact with bodily fluids such as blood, sweat, saliva, or other body discharges. Symptoms of Ebola like high fevers, headaches, joint and muscle aches, sore throat, weakness, stomach pain, and lack of appetite usually show up 2 to 21 days after the infection. It also makes its victims hemorrhage both internally and externally and causes them to bleed to death. What makes Ebola a level 4 biohazard disease is its short incubation period in which it starts to affect the host body, which ranges between 2 to 21 days. The good news is that its short incubation period makes it easier to monitor its spread, then making it easier to quarantine and contain. Of Ebola's 5 subtypes, the Zaire strain, the first to be identified, is considered the most deadly.
First, we can stop Ebola. We know how to do it. It will be a long and hard fight, and the situation in Lagos, Nigeria is particularly concerning, but we can stop Ebola. Second, we have to stop it at the source in Africa. That's the only way to get control. And third, that we have to stop it at the source through tried and true means.
The virus manifests itself in bushmeat, like bats, rats, chimpanzees, and monkeys, which are the primary source of food for many African countries. Poverty-stricken families go hunting and often come in contact with animals when they get scratched or bitten, also exposing them to the virus.
We may now have a breakthrough, a potential one at the very least, because at the request of the U.S. charity that worked with the 2 infected Americans, Dr. Kent Brantley and aid worker Nancy Wrightbull, they were administered an experimental serum for Ebola and are both seeing remarkable improvement in their condition. So that's some encouraging news. The treatment, called ZMapp, never tested on humans until now, is being developed by San Diego-based MAP Biopharmaceutical. The drug is made with tobacco plants and with an Ebola antibodies harvested from infected mice. Until now, MAP Biopharmaceutical has been a little-known company with only 9 employees. A little more known now, Betty.
This has raised ethical questions as to why the dose has been administered to Americans while the people of Africa are far from having the drug supplied to them. India is quite safe from the Ebola as of now, as the disease has mostly been contained in West Africa. What may pose a threat to India and other Asian countries is the discovery of the Zaire Ebola virus strain in fruit bats of Bangladesh. But chances are less likely as bushmeat is not consumed in these countries. In talk with Mrs. Usha Banerjee, a member of the senior management of the Ebola group of hospitals, she said, "Ebola is not a red alert concern in India, but the disease can be carried from Africa. We have a great number of Africans visiting India largely due to medical reasons almost every day, increasing the risk of an Ebola outbreak in India." In addition to that, she said, basic hand hygiene, not with soap but with alcohol-based sanitizers, can help reduce any chance of transference drastically. Another area of concern is that there are an alarming 47,000 Indians in the affected nations. The Indian government is taking necessary precautions, assuring us that there is no cause for panic. They are monitoring flights to and from the affected areas and ensuring that passengers do not have high body temperatures or other symptoms. Health Minister Harshvardhan, however, said there is no reported case in India, but one traveller who landed in New Delhi on the 20th of July was confirmed by the WHO as a case of EVD, was found to be healthy. The National Institute of Virology in Pune and the National Centre for Disease Control in Delhi are prepared to test samples for diagnosis. The ministry has asked the chief secretaries of all states to strengthen their own tracking, surveillance and isolation facilities. The government's 24-hour Emergency Operations Centre is available and its numbers are 011-2361-469 and alternatively 3205 and 1302. If any symptoms of the EVD are observed, please contact the nearest doctor and feel free to dial the Emergency Operations Centre.
But by no means implies that all countries, or even many countries, will see Ebola cases.
India may be safe for now, but with India already taking risks with the test samples, the checkups at airports and citizens in Africa coming back home, can the authorities be blindly trusted? All it takes for the disease to spread violently is one infection. One infection and the entire nation could be engulfed in its wrath. Could this Ebola disease be a pandemic and wipe out the entire human race as we know it? We can just hope not.